absolutely fantastic looking grid here. 33 cars lined up behind me for the 12th edition of the Super Trofeo Lamborghini World Finals. I am joined by Luciano. Luciano, this is the best qualifying Donovan has had all year. Your boy has been super, super fast. You've told me this is your home track, something you've lived and breathed almost your whole life. It definitely paid off here.
See, you know that is our own track. You see Donovan's performance of this morning, so now also us is more hard, more pressure because we are at home, so we must go to the podium every day if we can for another 2 days. So we will see today do better than yesterday. Something looks like 2 days before, so and I think that he will go very, very fast. So we'll forget the championship. Now we just need to win this race.
Anche ieri sono molto freddo. Oggi sono più bello, caldo, perfette condizioni.
Oggi bello, caldo, una bella persona che mi intervista, una macchina che andrà a finire al podio, ma che vuoi di più? Questa è Misano. Abbiamo pure il nostro amico svizzero di importazione che viene a vederci. Comunque tutto a posto.
Thank you very much, Luciano. Well, I'll give you a quick translation.
See you the next pole.
A quick translation. Obviously, I said today it was much hotter than yesterday. He's very happy with surrounded by friends and families, and he hopes the best.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dakota. There's Luciano Privitelli, and his son Donovan is the top qualifying the Lamborghini Cup class, going really well, 4th on this grid. And just to point out again, it's the combination of the 3 sets of groups of cars from the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America and Europe. We've got 4 European Championship cars at the top, 1 American who's actually a Canadian racer from the North American Series in 5th, and the best of the Asian Series runners is down in 12th place, Climax Racing's car number 276 of the Lees. But I don't think it's too fine a point. Yesterday was very cold and the wind started to blow through, and track temperature at the moment at least is already 5 degrees higher than that, closer to a good zone for these tyres.
Yeah, we had the hot lap session just before lunch, and compared to yesterday afternoon, the track is much better. That sort of cold, late afternoon race, really, the humidity starts to rise. You get that sort of damp air. It makes the track a little bit slippery, really hard to generate temperature. Just that little bit more air temperature and track temperature allow the tyres to work at a better window.
Well, it certainly looks much prettier as well. The air temperature is only about 2 degrees higher than yesterday, but the cars look colourful, none more than the Oregon team. Their cars, a span of colours from pink on the nose to yellow to green on the tail, but they're always at the sharp end of the grid. And Pietro Perellini, who was the European AM champion, clinched that title yesterday. He's starting on the outside of the front row. And the combination that they beat yesterday to that title by the smallest of margins. Stefan Trebbiadini will be starting from pole for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing, with Pier Giacomo Randazzo doing the second part of this race. And as with the Super Trofeo, it's a 50-minute race. But hey, let's get some more hot news from the grid with Dakota.
I've absolutely chased up with Lamborghini Super Trofeo superstar Cory Lewis. Now, Cory, you've gone from being driver to driver coach of Rocky, who's standing right next to us. How has it been in that sort of transition? Obviously, Rocky's been flying on track.
Yeah, honestly, it's been seamless. Rocky and I have been working together now for almost 2 years, and I get what he's going through, right? I've been here many times. As much as I love to be in the driver's seat, I love to pass on information and experiences that I've built over the years. So Rocky's been doing an amazing job. The whole Rafa Racing team has been on point all weekend long, and his first ever World Finals, and we're knocking it out of the park. So hopefully we can get some points here for race 1 and see what tomorrow brings.
Obviously, today's a little bit warmer than yesterday. I was just talking to Luciano Privitelli. So that means slight change of setup on the cars, tyres. Is it going to be better, worse?
It should be better. I'm really hoping so. We're in a really good window here with our setup of the car, so hopefully race 1 goes the way we want.
Thank you very much, Cory. He's dying to speak to us. He's put his hand out the window. One quick word, Rocky, are you ready to rock? I've been waiting to say that the whole weekend.
Ready to rock, baby. Undersell and over-deliver. Let's fucking go.
Sorry for the rude language, but don't worry, he's really ready, and obviously adrenaline is high on the grid.
Well, first World Final, so yes, apologies for the language there. Rocky Boulder, you couldn't be more Canadian than running a ranch that produces maple syrup. How's that? For waving the national flag. But he's had a really good run to the season. That emphasises the point, the role of Cory Lewis there. You need so many of these drivers, they're quite new to racing. They need good mentorship, but they also need to listen, don't they?
Yeah, it's so key to have the right people behind you. you know, you've got to have the coach that's passing on the right information, but it's also key that the student listens and can take in that information. You know, you could have Lewis Hamilton as your driver coach, but if you can't listen and understand what he's saying to you, it's no good. So it's really important to have that good working relationship, you know, from both sides.
And, you know, that's very much a feature of the entirety. We've got the 4 classes. We've got the 2 junior classes, if you will, the AM and the Lamborghini Cup class. But in the later races this afternoon, we've got the pros. They don't need coaching, but the Pro-Am. But in 3 of the 4 classes, you've got someone who could be taught. And, again, it is down to listening. It is down to analysis. And sometimes there's a sort of breakthrough moment where it all suddenly makes sense. Everything you've been told by the pro driver, your mentor, your instructor, suddenly you go, ah, I get it. So I've got to break a little deeper into the corner, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you can be told something, but until you go and experience it for yourself, you can't actually get your head around it. You know, for example, inexperienced driver maybe going into turn 11 and not taking it flat out because they don't have the belief in the aerodynamics of the car. It's only once, you know, they can get their head round it and actually do it for themselves, they then understand it is possible, and then that also gives more trust to the driver coach to keep working and developing further.
Yeah, it's an art, and it gets developed across the seasons. Many of the driver pairings have been together for many seasons. They know it works. They enjoy each other. Looking at the roll cage of the car, how many times that has raced. You can see all the individual stickers, meaning it's past scrutineering. Looking down at the grid, it looks though we're missing a car or 2 towards the rear. Maybe Philip Tang's car isn't there. One easy to pick out is right towards the back, Super Trofeo Pong in his bright orange Singer car. And he's one of the people who clinched a championship this year. He's the Asian Lamborghini Cup champion. There's Pier Giacomo. I tell you what, is that Stefan Tribudini? Or, yes, it's Stefan Tribudini with the semi-open face helmet, something he's very comfortable with. He's starting from pole position, but doing that thing, everything has to be just right. The little twitches and tremors, you see it in rugby when people are about to line up to take a conversion, a little, you know, everyone has their little setup there, what they do to just relax them and, more to the point, get their focus on point. Now, this circuit, 4.226 kilometres, 2.626 miles. There is the map of the circuit on the steering wheel. Quite tricky. That's mainly for if you've gone off and you can report exactly where you've left the car, more than the driver needing to know what's up. A couple of cars missing from a row, about rows 4 and 6 by the looks of things. We'll try and work those out as the cars go around. But sometimes you get people still with mechanical problems. Very unusual in the Super Trofeo. But actually, you know what? If you miss this race, you can still have another race tomorrow in the second part of the World Finals. But if you want to get World Final success, of course, you've got to get really good results, not just in one of the races, but both. Those get put together in aggregate, and then it comes down to the tiniest of tiniest margins. Even as down to last year, the overall title for the pro runners was settled on who set the fastest lap in the second of the 2 races. It can be that close. This circuit, 16 turns around the 4.226 kilometres, and the first one is just at the top of the picture. It's very, very soon after the start line, and all the people who are in the grandstand on the massive pit building where they've got a fabulous terrace looking down on the track and across most of the circuit. You know, fabulous view. The paddock's been absolutely buzzing. Building up from Thursday, the first day of racing, Friday a few more, today pouring in, and tomorrow I think I'm going to have to get in really quite early because the gates are open, people come in and just have the best time. Right, 2 of the cars that are missing from the grid are right there. They've obviously had late problems. The one closer to us is car number 27, which is CMR Stefan Lemeray and Rodrigue Guillon. CMR entries. They'll be frustrated. They won't miss the race. They'll just have to start when the others have gone across the start-finish line. And then, of course, for them, they've got that really long, slow exit from the pit lane. One of the slowest you ever come across in racing. When you have the pit stops, it all equals out. But for them, well, at least they'll get to race, but not where they're supposed to be. So, yesterday in particular, we had not 1 but 2 formation laps, a very sensible decision. Actually, it was promoted by the North American series. They said, let's just get heat into the tyres. And yesterday, with the track temperature running, well, it never got above 14 degrees. It was really tricky. So on the formation lap, have to work that rubber really, really hard indeed. And we even saw for the first 2 laps of the race, some of the top drivers were still working their tyres. So, Stefan Tribudini, car number 66 from VSR, Vincenzo Sospiri Racing, on pole position. Pietro Perellini alongside for Oregon, new European AM champion. Then Paolo Bilieri for Motorsport Racing. And top Lamborghini Cup driver with Donovan Privitelli. We heard from his proud father, Luciano, down the grid. Canadian racer, also in AM, that's Dean Noyles. And Serwin Mazur, racer from Poland, is 6th on the grid. Then Adrian Lewandowski, GT3 Poland, alongside the second Lamborghini Cup car, European champion Karim Oj. Sebastian Carozzo in 9th position, and Antoine Como in 10th. Still a lot of cars behind him. It's a 33-car grid. Garrett Adams from the States and Dong Shung Lee for Climax Racing 11th and 12th. David Saab, he had a bit of a poor race yesterday, but he's been quick most times I've seen him, so look for him to proceed, along with Zhu Bizhuang, Chinese racer from the Climax Racing team. Then Rocky Baldock, the man who had the explosion within his car, the Rafa Racing Team racer from Canada, and Kevin C alongside Holger Harmsen. He's had an up and down weekend, but expect him to do well in the Lamborghini Cup class. Francesco Turzo. A lot of the drivers in the Lamborghini Cup, they race solo. Kikan Cao from China, and then Jeff Courtney from the States racing for Lippert Motorsport. Lippert Motorsport should have a good setup. They've had a lot of success over the past 3 days. Then Umar Abdullah from Indonesia lined up along Hazik Zairo O. John Hirschberg from the American Series race, Shahi as well. Adalberto Batista from Brazil. Alfredo Hernandez Ortega, Mexico. I haven't listed everybody's nationality, but we've got a really cosmopolitan grid. Rodrigue Guillon and Philip Tang. And then Christian Bortolato, Johnson Huang getting down towards the tail of the grid. This row and one more. Super Chai Wirabor, Wan Pong, Serge Doms, and 33rd and final position, Sutiluk Buncharan, who is the Asian AM Series champion. Races, as per the regular Super Trofeo races, 50 minutes. There is a pit stop around the middle part in the race. So the Urus pace car peels off into the pits. At this point, the drivers can't see the lights. They can't even see the gantry. Round the final corner, turn 16, they come. Nobody can make the jump. They've got to wait until those lights are held red. And suddenly, Stefan Tribudini pulls off from pole position. What is his problem? The lights go green. They had to be flicked. They are flicked. Now he's getting going, or is it? Someone's had a bit of contact. You can see a bit of bodywork flying through the air, but importantly, it wasn't Stefan's. He was out of the way. So leading into the first corner, nice and neatly done for Pietro Perolini. Must be, well, that's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I know for a fact he's never started on the front row before today, so I know he was quite nervous leading into this, but after a great European season, I know he had loads of confidence, so, you know, this is only going to help. His main challengers already had to pull off. Well, absolutely. So now,
Turn 4 is a really tricky corner. We got the cars through turns 1, 2 and 3, which are effectively a 3-corner complex. That was good, that was neat. And then just maybe the excitement and maybe not enough heat in the tyres. Couldn't turn into turn 4 for one of the runners. But Stefan Tribudini, well, we can't tell if he's moving at all at this point, but this is the car that pulled off. He is moving at some form, but I think they may be driving back to the pit. So don't know what the problem was. Stefan's such a lot of experience. European AM champion with Pier Giacomo Randazzo last year. Second this year, but didn't get it away from pole position. In fact, didn't even reach pole position. So hugely disappointing. For everyone else behind, they'll be settling down, but a big lead for Pietro Perolini. Talked before the race about how drivers still in these cool conditions, even in racing form, as we saw from our race leader, still weaving a bit to get the heat into their rubber.
Yeah, just saw a car about 5 or 6 back there. Looked like the underside of the car was flapping. That could have been due to contact at the start. That's not going to be helping with aerodynamic balance, that's for sure. Yeah, as you say, Bruce, bit of weaving still on these first lap or two just to generate that extra heat as the extra formation lap has been removed today. So, you know, that extra chance to build the heat before the start is gone, so you've got to make sure you're really working it hard in the first couple of laps of the race.
Yeah, worth pointing out, I was thinking it was still yesterday when we had the 2 formation laps and the day before, but right now the 1 formation lap, and Pietro Perolini not only got into the first corner first because the pole car didn't start, but he and the car giving chase, Paolo Bilieri, have got clean away from the opposition. Third place is Donovan Privitelli, so the white car with the blue and the black flash in third place, that's leading the Lamborghini Cup class. So his father, his greatest cheerleader, Luciano, will be jumping up and down the pits, but then we'll suddenly remember, hold on, I've got to almost get ready. This race is 50 minutes long, and the pit stop, let's say it's in 20 minutes from now. That'll come soon enough. But right now, Pietro Perolini, here he is for the Oregon team, not just leading, but stretching clear. 1.7 seconds clear at the start of the lap, down to turn 8. That's the infield hairpin. Donovan Privitelli can't brake, blocks off the inside. He's basically saying, Sebastian Carazzo, if you're coming past me, you've got to find a way to do it, and I'll only give you the outside line. Little kink at turn 9, and then we get up to turn 10. Then it's hard on the brakes, but it's about getting the best exit speed you can from this corner, because what follows, I could give you the numbers, they turn 11, 12 and 13, but they're all kinks, all at high speed. So if you get good speed onto that back straight, that's what you need. And thank you very much from Dakota down there. She's asked VSR what happened to Stefan Tribudini's car. The team doesn't yet know. Perhaps the car will get back and he will be able to tell them.
Yeah, to just lose drive before the start, but then it seemed like he's got going again. So yeah, it's really hard to tell in that sort of situation. There's a multitude of things it can be. There's so many sensors in these cars. They're overall very reliable, but it could be a faulty sensor, something as simple as that. You just don't know.
Well, the fact he got going is a good thing, because what we saw a couple of days ago, Jonathan Cecotto pulled off on the first of 2 formation laps. They thought it was drive shaft failure. It was actually a gear linkage, something as minor as that. You always talk about the smallest part having the biggest impact sometimes. So let's just run down the car. We look at car number 170 at the moment, Dean Noyles. He started in 5th. He's still running in 5th, Canadian racer. Top one from the North American Series. It's still the European people dominating at the moment. Perellini, Bilieri, Privitelli, then behind Carazzo, Noyles, Antoine Como from Canada, Kevin C. and Karim OJ. They're the top 8 positions. David Starb, easy to pick out. He's running in 9th in the brightest car in the field. It's Dayglow Yellow. But up front, Perellini's having just a really good, comfortable time. There is the question, how hard you push? But today it's not quite so critical. They got the heat in their rubber quicker and pressing on. 2.3 seconds clear, almost a similar margin from second, which is Paolo Bilieri, back to the white, blue and black car that's just coming into turn 10 in 3rd place. Donovan Privitelli still by one. He's got 3 other AM cars between him and the next of the Lamborghini Cup class, which is 18. And right, Umar Abdullah, driver from Indonesia, has reported to the pits with a puncture. He might be the one you picked out with something flapping on the car, but certainly about a third, maybe halfway down the grid, there was contact, so they rushed in that rolling start. A little bit of bodywork. It could have even been a mirror, couldn't tell, thrown up in the air. That was our first identification, but thank you very much, Dakota. Umar for the Delta Garage crew, run by Absolute. Just saw Ingo Matter and the guys working into position. Very, very busy weekend, because a lot of the teams, of course, are running cars in the Pro and Pro-Am race that comes later this afternoon. They've had a lot of testing on Wednesday. They're racing Thursday, Friday. It's a long meeting, but for a lot of the drivers, as we were talking yesterday, Jack, competing in the North American Series, the Super Trofeo is a support category, and their time is very, very much limited, whereas here, it's all about them.
Yeah, for sure. When you're running alongside championships like IMSA and IndyCar, you know, it's a big, big meeting, a lot of logistics, and it's great to be part of that package, but by being a small part of that big weekend, that big circus, you just have to fit in as and when there's time. But you come here, you are the main event, so there is just loads of track time. So it's an absolute fantastic weekend to be part of.
Okay, we're 5 minutes into the race. It's now polite to start talking about 2 words that get combined and we see on our screen quite a lot. Track limits. If you want to know what I'm talking about, the white lines that mark the either flank of the circuit, you're fine to put a wheel over, 2 wheels over, 3 wheels over, but if all 4 wheels are on the outside, the side away from the circuit, over that white line, you will get a warning for track limits. You get a certain number, and as they build up, you then get an official warning. Go 1 more than that, and you get a 5-second time penalty. And look how close these cars are. Imagine, let's say the bright yellow one, David Starb, losing 5 seconds, that would lose him 5 or 6 places and put him back in traffic. So, unfortunately, often in the heat of battle, you'll find drivers just pushing, and sometimes when it comes to lapping back markers, they guess wrongly, and they end up, well, they've got a choice, hit the car in front or go wide. Now, this is a fabulous shot. Looking down at turn 14, it's a corner of consequence. You can see the 2 kinks before it, 12, 13, the jazzy painting on the right-hand side of the circuit, that's 13. We're seeing a lot of drivers running wide there. I don't think that's really where they're being pinged. Tends to be turn 6 that they get, which is just as you go onto the infield straight after you've come out of turns 4 and 5, you kink to the left, and that's where people are running wide. It's actually not a corner we see a great deal. As I say that, there is turn 6, and there's Pietro Perellini going through it with enough wheels on the tarmac not to be picking up a time penalty.
Yeah, very tidy through there. At the end of the day, he's now got a nice lead. His team are probably feeding him the information on the radio that he has a good gap. To manage the gap, manage your pace.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a look back at the start. This isn't happy viewing because you don't want to put a car there unless you're overtaking someone on the grass. That's Stefan Tribudini. Away from pole. The lights are still red on the gantry, so no one else can floor it. But suddenly, Pietro Perellini goes from second on the grid to effective first, and it got going. Yeah, it was about 7th or 8th place where someone, I think that may well be a wing mirror. So a couple of cars getting up close. Can't quite see who's done it yet, but it's certainly very tight in that middle bunch. But again, they were trying to guess when the light was going to go from red to green. That's always the time, if it's a nice clear run, but I guess it was probably held a bit longer, waiting for Tribudini to get a car width away from the edge of the circuit. But Perellini, realising he just needed to move to the right, did exactly that. And in behind, Paolo Bilieri had to back out of it. Donovan Privitelli in the black car, well, it's black on this flank, had a little look to see if he can get up into second place. Didn't quite work. And it was a car that was trying to get past all of them. I think that was that Carazzo. Let's have a look at the number on the car. No, car number 79 was the one that ran wide. That's Sirwin Mazur. And there, unfortunately for VSR, they've had a fantastic meeting so far. They finally, after 10 years, landed their first European Pro title yesterday. But this car, running in the AM class, great yesterday, just fell short in the AM title race, but today didn't get a racing lap. Hugely disappointing.
Yeah, it'll be extra motivation to have a good race tomorrow, but unfortunately that just rules them out of the overall World Finals Championship, which, you know, a driver as seasoned as Stefan Tribadini, you know, he's coming here because he wants to win. You know, he'll be gutted he couldn't win the European title again yesterday, so he would have come into today really hoping to bag the World Finals. So to not even get a chance to start race one is just absolutely gutting.
Yeah, but you know what? Just after the race yesterday, I was walking back through the paddock after the lengthy podium ceremony, and I saw his teammate, Pier Giacomo Randazzo, go up and give a great bear hug to the crew that beat them. So, you know, that spirit's out there. That was Perolini and his teammate Massimo Cilia. So, you know, these drivers, they travel the world racing together and socialising together as well. You know, this isn't Formula One. There can be fun to be had off the track. You know, it is serious when on the track, but there's a really good bon ami between the drivers, I'd say, in the Super Trofeo series. Well, you used to race there. Did people talk to you?
Well,
or were you too fast?
Well, I don't know about that. You know, I had my moments for sure. No, I did a lot of my racing in Asia, so obviously in a lot of places there's the language barrier. But you know, you generally try and get on with everyone you can. There's obviously people you clash with, but that's the same in all walks of life.
Yeah. So it is. Right, car 130, that's Antoine Como. He seems to be picking up the pace a little bit, but he's in that classic case. He's running 6th at the moment. Just not quite close enough. Right, car number 148, spun and rejoined.
David Starb, I believe.
Yeah, David Starb, the bright yellow car. He's just having, he's quick, but has his moments. I just thought he was due a good result. He was running, I think, in about 10th place at the time, but that's put him down, oh dearie me, down to 27th position. Talking of those track limit warnings, just after I mentioned Pietro Perolini pulling ever further clear, he's 5 and a bit seconds clear. He did actually pick one up moments before I spoke, hadn't yet come onto the timing screen. Donovan Privitelli, may I say, I thought he was going to hold up the run of cars in 4th, 5th, 6th. He's pulling clear of them. So he's just going better and better. He's 2.5 seconds down on Paolo Bilieri, but leading Lamborghini Cup. And let's go down. Dakota is busy yet again.
I am. I'm with Nico Jamin. Obviously, Nico, you're Antoine's coach in the 131. He's currently running in about 5th place right now. How much influence do you have over him in the car? Are you able to put the cans on and say push, 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 or like you need to find some time here or there? How much sort of coaching can you do from this point?
Well, I mean, I've been following Antoine now for a whole season, so I know what his strength and weaknesses are, so I'm trying to guide him the best I can through this race. He had a really good start. We dialed the car a little bit differently for that race from when I was driving yesterday to make it a little bit more comfortable for him, and it seems to be working pretty good at the moment, so hopefully we can have a strong race and bring some good results.
When you say dialed the car, what kind of differences have you made? Have you changed the wing position?
Yeah, so usually like pro driver likes a front axle that's a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more pointy. So for him, we just basically made the front axle a little bit less aggressive, so he has a little bit of understeer on the car. That's what seems to work best for him.
Let's see how those changes go. Thank you very much, Nico.
Thank you, Dakota and Nico Jamin explaining all. Right, Jack, I'm going to throw this at you. When he talks about a pro driver liking a car that's a bit more aggressive, making the front more aggressive, what does he mean?
So a pro driver wants a car that's nice and direct. You want the car to, when you turn in, you want the car to turn in, go where you want. Even most drivers, I would say, even have a slight bit of oversteer, so you can really drive the car on that knife edge of, you know, losing the rear end, because you can then point the car exactly where you want. If you have a car that understeers, it's safer. You're generally not going to lose the rear of the car. You're not going to spin. So you've got a bit more time to react. As an amateur, it allows you that bit more time to think and place the car. But when you have understeer, you generally have to slow the car down a little bit. But obviously these guys realistically are driving maybe 1 or 2 seconds, sometimes slower than the pros. So when you're not chasing that absolute outright performance, sometimes having a safer car. Oh, have we got a replay of an incident?
Oh, okay, this looks so Rocky Boulder got a little bit close to the tail of 90, Holger Harmsen. So sort of super slow-mo replay. It's a bit, a little bit of body clash there, but it's a bit like when you look at a super slow-mo in a football tackle or something. It can look worse than it really is.
Yeah.
Because in full racing pace, you know, things are a bit different. Right, car 199. There's the first of the time penalties. 5 seconds added, unfortunately, for Rocky Bolduc. That's abusing track limits, and we've seen him having contact, so they'll be looking at that as well. Car number 41, Christian Portolato's just had a spin and rejoined, so it's all sort of happening out there. But what's happening at the front is that lead is getting larger and larger. The closest battle actually is this one, 4th, 5th and 6th, which is Sebastian Carazzo, car number 146, Dean Noyles and Antoine Como. So we've got 2 Canadians and Carazzo as well. 3 North American Series cars. They race all around the States. They've come here and they can't keep away from each other.
Yeah, travelled all the way over the Atlantic, and they're still within a few metres of each other.
And Sebastian, sorry, I had to quickly look up his nationality. He's a Puerto Rican, so again, a great spread of nationalities. What we are seeing, I reckon, is the best drive of Donovan Privitelli's life. He's in 3rd. There he is, the white car with the blue and black stripe, and he's catching Paolo Bilieri. And in turn, they're being dropped all the time by our race leader, Pietro Perolino. And nothing they can do about it. Karim Ogier is another 10 seconds back in 7th place, so he's running 2nd in the Lamborghini Cup class, ahead of Kevin C. And they're very close together, actually, just 3/10 of a second between Ogier and C. There we are. And in the AM class, well, that's the AM listing, of course. We've got the people like Privitelli, Ogier and C that interrupt that general flow. But as you'd expect in this race, the AM class drivers, they're all given a ranking according to the results they've achieved, their age. Sometimes once you get to 110, you go down from, you know, silver to gold or whatever it is. It's 50, isn't it? That's the benchmark.
I believe so, yes. Yeah, so generally the Lamborghini Cup drivers will be either new to racing or of slightly older drivers. But as we're seeing here with the performance Privitellio's providing us, it's not always a dead cert, and you'll probably find after this weekend, if he comes back next year, they'll say you have to be in the AM class. Yeah,
I think so too. So right, Serin Mazur, car number 79, and car 199, Rocky Bolduc. 10-second penalties for the pair of them for causing a collision. I think those are probably separate incidents, because of course we saw Rocky Bolduc hitting the back of number 90, Holger Hampson. But there we are. You spend lap after lap trying to gain 1/10 of a second, trying to pass a car ahead, but throw away 10 seconds, well, that undoes all your work and more. Right. Settling down. Pietro Perolini can afford to actually back off a little bit. He's got a 7-second margin. He's not at the point he's having to do any lapping. He's actually just running between turns 15 and 16. Actually, there is someone not too far up the track. It's Rodrigue Guillon, who's halfway down the start-finish straight as Pietro comes onto the start-finish straight. Remember, Rodrigue was one of the 2 cars that started from pit out and very much got delayed. Another car not too far ahead of him is the spinning Christian Portolato. So they will be the first cars that Pietro Perolini comes across, but he doesn't have to worry because he's sitting on that buffer, 7 and a bit seconds, so he can afford to be a little bit cautious.
Yeah, certainly not worth taking any risks. He's got enough of a gap that even if he lost a couple of seconds passing a back marker, it's better to be safe than sorry.
No, absolutely so. Just wondering if I saw a problem for Antoine Como. There was an ANSA Motorsport car, white with the red body flash on it. This is the only one of those, and it was going quite slowly between turns 13 and 14. I may be wrong, maybe misidentification. Hope so for his sake. Now, no doubting the idea of our race leader, though. Pietro Perolino, Oregon team, comfortably in front of the rest. Right, the pit window will be open in 3 minutes. What does that mean? That means you're allowed to come in once the window, the imaginary window, has opened, and then you can make your driver change. You're from pit in to pit out, you're given a time of 105 seconds, 1 minute 45 seconds. If you exit the pit lane before that number has been reached, you will get a time penalty. The other thing is the pit window is open for a fixed period, and when it's closed, and we saw this yesterday, 2 cars were at the penultimate corner. They didn't make it to pit in, and they got penalised for that as well. So, you know, it's not just down to the drivers in the cars. The crews have to be in constant communication with them. This might have been the one that, sorry, I thought it was ANSA Motorsport. I saw something white and red limping in, but car number 165, it's Ray Shahi's car, 40 Racing entry, US Racetronics.
Just Heard him say stuck in third gear.
That would also explain his pace. That wasn't a good place, you know, picking him up at stuck in third gear when you're just arriving at turn 13. That would be a bit of a concern. And he would have been dive bombed by everyone around him, but luckily they went effectively either side of him. So big frustration for Ray sitting on board. They've got to be entirely clear, but you know, I'm sure he's not wrong. If he felt it was stuck in third gear, I'm sure it absolutely was stuck in third gear. He wouldn't choose to have that sort of moment. Right, our race leader, 7.7 seconds clear. Pietro Perolini having a super smooth run. Made all the easier, of course. He lost his immediate challenge to the driver on pole position, Stefan Tribudini. They came out side by side in turn 16, all ready for the rolling start, and suddenly Tribudini pulled off onto the right, parked his car on the grass. It's since been put on a flatbed truck and removed from the circuit. And that is that. Pietro since has had no real challenge. Paolo Bilieri a little more comfortable, just going out of the bottom of the shot in second. The leading Lamborghini Cup cars just going through there in third place overall. Oh, unbelievably, well, delightful to report. Dakota tells us that Ray Shahi, car number 165, has rejoined the circuit. So obviously they've hit, pushed, or just convinced him that it's all fine.
Yeah, they've probably done some sort of power cycle just to reset the... Oh, car 286 rejoining from a little off.
Yeah, that's Umar Abdullah. He had a little problem at the start of the race as well. He was the one who came in with a puncture. Yeah, that's right. He's had one puncture. I don't know if he's picked up another one there. Can't quite tell. Did he spin on his own juices? Got Rocky Bolduc tucked in behind, and no. Rocky trying to remove a bit of his bodywork there. So, well, that's a little bit frustrating. Round he goes. We caught it at about this point. First time around, Rocky has clashed with him and is, well, I don't know if he's going to get out of the gravel there. That's down at, oh, well.
It's whether Rocky Bolduc has any suspension damage or even radiator damage from that contact.
Yeah, you do window. Okay, the window is open. Those that want to pit can pit. So for car 61, Pietro Perolini, he knows he's got a very tidy teammate to hand over to. And, well, here's our race leader, Pietro Perolini, and the car in front from DL Racing, car number 41, Christian Bortolato, did everything to get out of the way, but almost got hit as a consequence there, because I don't think Pietro was expecting that as they arrived at turn 4. That'd be something. You've done a really good first half of the race. You're 7-8 seconds clear. You probably think, right, the pit window's open. Is my teammate a bit faster? I tell you what, I'll bring the car in for him. And, you know, it's very easy for the mind to just wander a little bit, particularly on an in-lap. You're thinking about stuff you're not really thinking. Yeah, now, the pit lane, I said, is open, but we think we're hearing that 186 got there first, which is Jonathan Hirschberg, 40 Racing. So they've had, unfortunate problem for sister car of Ray Shahi. Right, incident involving car number 199 and 286 under investigation. So that's Rocky Bolduc, 199 and 286, which was Umar Abdullah, who we saw having a bit like a shark bite out of his left rear flank.
Yeah, no surprise there. I'm sure there will be a penalty applied. Well, there we go, drive-through penalty.
Yeah, he's had a little too much excitement in the race so far, Rocky Bolduc. He has a very good last handful of races in the North American Super Trofeo, but looking for global glory, it's got the better of him, unfortunately. Still, he can fight back and have another crack tomorrow to at least sort of redeem what went on today, because it's all down to small margins. There've been 2 contacts, but 2 small contacts. And unfortunately, we seem to be only getting news at the moment from 40 Racing. We had Ray Shahi coming in, reporting, stuck in third. He went back out and has effectively done 1 lap and come back in, and it's parked. This looks like a more regular pit stop. This is for Dean North, who was running very nicely at the front, within the top 10, running in about 5th or 6th positions. He's driving solo, so he'll have an extra 3 seconds at a standstill. You might think that's unfair, but it's not, because of course the driver who goes back out, having done the first half of the race, will have understanding exactly how the track is feeling, how the car's feeling, and how the tyres were before he came in. Any driver taking over from another driver has to have that little voyage of discovery for the first handful of corners, even the first lap, to really find out the true conditions. So that 3-second deficit really is pretty fair, I'd say. So Pietro Perolini trying to see what he can do, going around the outside of one of the cars delayed at the start of the race, car number 27. Rodrigue Guillon, but I think took a bit of a risk there, actually.
I feel like Guillon was putting up a little bit of more of a fight than he should have been. There being a back marker car getting in the way of the race leader, it seemed like he wanted to try and race Peter, and yeah, in my eyes, once you know that you're getting lapped, you don't have to jump out the way, but make it easy for the faster car that's in the race to just get through, and then you can carry on with your own race.
And of course, in that position, if the marshals are right on the mark, they should be holding a blue flag up to you that you are being caught and being passed. And if they wave the flag, the message is even more emphasised. Right, drone shot here. It's not in super slow-mo. It's not even in slow-mo. This is how slow you have to be on pit exit. Even so, it almost looks too slow for that. But again, look at the curve. It's going around the outside of the first complex, the first three corners. Here's a view. There it is on the exit of turn 3. Can be a bit of surprise for those coming round because the barriers are quite high. These Super Trofeo Huracans are rather low, but suddenly there's a car on the left-hand side. It's not quite where your trajectory is, but it can certainly catch you by surprise if you're in the heat of a battle. So for those particularly who are doing the race solo, chance for a little bit of liquid to keep them hydrated, because doesn't even matter if the air temperature is cold. What's it at the moment? 14, 15 degrees Celsius. It's still a very, very hot working environment. You've raced these cars in places like Sepang. This must feel like an iceberg today in comparison.
Certainly a lot cooler than you get out in the Far East. However, when you're inside the car, you've got your fireproof race suit, your fireproof underwear. Essentially, imagine wearing pajamas and a jacket and winter trousers and then getting in a sauna, because sometimes even in this sort of temperature the car could be 40 degrees, sometimes in the summer 56 degrees. Imagine being in that environment for 30 minutes, but your heart rates are near to maximum, and then you're having to concentrate and, you know, dance on the edge with, you know, a 300,000 pound race car with 600 horsepower under your right foot. You know, it's a lot to take in, especially for these gentlemen drivers. So huge respect to anyone who gets in a GT race car and takes on events like these.
Yeah, it's something that just can't be sort of underestimated. It is, or even exaggerated, because it is a fearsome place to be, and it's about keeping your focus under those conditions. Right, Pietro Perolini hasn't pitted yet. Donovan Privitelli hasn't pitted yet, so he's gone, I was going to say from second to third, but the guy's been chasing all race. Paolo Biglieri still appears to be just in front of him on the track.
I think Biglieri's already stopped.
Okay.
So he'll be a lap in front on track, but a lap down. Yeah. So then when they stop, that should filter through.
Yeah, because the sort of lap speed they're managing is about 1 minute 38 seconds, and as I said, coming in and out of the pits, it's 1 minute 45 seconds. So yeah, maybe that's just about right. But Privitelli having a really good run. He's running second at the moment, but he hasn't made a pit stop, and neither has the race leader Pietro Perolini. Right, there is the front end, or most of the front end of Rocky Bolduc's car. There he is, sitting, just waiting. He's clearly going to continue, but aerodynamically not quite as it would have left the base. And shake at the head. He's clearly being spoken to on the radio. Just hold it, you've got a handful more seconds. Of course, you've got your drive-through as well.
Yeah, certainly not his day. A couple of little incidents have, you know, sort of brought an end to his World Finals campaign, but he can still, you know, aim for a good result tomorrow.
Yeah, it's all about learning. It's only the second year of his racing career, so as we heard from his driver instructor, Cory Lewis on the grid, you know, it's gathering that experience that you can then use at moments of excess and moments of difficulty. Pietro Perolini at some point will be coming into surface pit stop. He's got a lead now. Well, it's gone out to 11 and a bit seconds because Paolo Biglieri pitted a lap or so ago. Remember, it was about 8.5 seconds. Then about 3 seconds further back was Donovan Privitelli, so it means they're lapping at a fairly similar speed. But actually, the last couple of laps have been much better for our race leader. Now, one thing you have to do when you come in the pits is make sure you stop in the right place. And unfortunately, car 38, I'm just hearing for DL Racing, Dakota says Philip Tang went past his pit box. And then it doesn't mean you can go, oh, I've got it wrong, and sprint down the pit lane. You've still got to go at that 50 kilometres an hour down this really, really long pit stop. Oh, apparently they rolled the car backwards, so he didn't decide to keep on going. It's a question of how far you've passed your pit box by. So there it is, in position.
Something on the floor.
Something on the floor. We maybe missed the brake pedal. We heard that yesterday. There was someone, I can't remember who it was, the foam might have been Stefan Tripudini or someone, the foam from around their belt fell under one of the pedals. But some laps it was there, some laps it wasn't. So he didn't know how hard to hit the brakes. It absolutely awful, rolling around. There's no way, of course, when you're strapped in, you can reach down and fish it out. But so Tripudini had that problem yesterday. Put the car on the front row today on pole position. Didn't get to start the race. What did he do to the black cat across the road?
Well, clearly he upset someone in a previous life. But all he can do again is, you know, put it behind him. He's a very experienced amateur driver, very successful. Put it behind him, and you know, again, just aim for a win tomorrow to see out the season with the best result possible. Yeah,
and you know, having seen the pace he's got today, and Giacomo Randazzo goes better with every passing year, so eminently possible. Right, the bright orange car coming out, the driver who is the Lamborghini Cup champion for the Asian Series, Super Chaiwirabol one of many who runs the whole race solo. So he's going out of the pits, but actually the point he passes the camera, he's still got a lot of the pit lane to go. It's such a long pit exit. Right, Pietro Perellini, aware the pit window was going to close within a minute. That means he wouldn't have had time for a further lap. Will be diving in. Privitelli came in last time around. So really, almost all the paperwork for the pit stops will have been completed. But still at this point, the Oregon team have to be absolutely spot on and make sure that the number 61, once Massimo Cilia has got on board, does not go out and leave the pits too soon. Of course, what you have in this car, you'll have a button, is it, that you press to get on the pit lane speed limiter?
Yes, yeah, so you come in the pits, you press the button when you drop to first gear, drop below the speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour, hit the speed limiter button, and then you can go full throttle. And that's why as you hear the cars down the pit lane, they sound like they're almost misfiring, but that is just the software cutting the power, limiting you to 50k an hour, and then when you get to the end of the pit lane, providing your telemetry dash timer is below the obviously the pit time that it's set to, you can hit the button as you cross the line and exit with no problems. If your pit timer is above the time, you have to trim the speed without affecting the competitors behind you. So you can sometimes jump people in the pits, but you've got to make sure that if you've got anyone close behind you, you can't be seen to be breaking down the pit lane, because that can get you a penalty.
I'm just thinking, thank goodness it's not down to the drivers to have to, with no limiter, just have to keep it below 50, because I reckon 80% of them would just accidentally do 51, 52, 75.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was watching a video the other day of the classic Formula 1 before there was a pit lane speed limit, and it seems crazy that was ever a thing.
I used to work in the pits and go to the pit wall during those days, and you had to be so vigilant. And someone working in the media, if you had a voice from your direction, your head, you're concentrating on that. And there is an awful shot somewhere of me walking to the pit lane in Suzuka. Damon Hill was much closer than I thought. And so it's for the good of absolutely everyone that you have those things. You know, it balances it all out. I know for the drivers it feels as though they're almost walking backwards, but it's there
for safety,
for a very good reason.
And you're here to tell the tale, Bruce, so clearly you survived that incident, so that's a good thing.
Just brushed it off, carried on. Professional to the beginning, as they say. Right, so Massimo Cilia will take over now and be leaving the pits in the car. He's taken over the number 61, the Pietro Perellini. Started from the outside of the front row, which actually became the pole side because Stefan Tripudini pulled off. He was on pole, came out at the final corner for the rolling start, pulled to the edge of the circuit. The car has been returned to the pits on a flatbed rescue truck. So now, with just under 20 minutes, in fact 18.5 minutes remaining in this race, Massimo Cilia for the Oregon team is set fair. But what he wants is for all the traffic around him to play nicely and not get in his way, because he'll be getting in among the others. At the moment, he's just going through the kink at turn 12. And in fact, the next car up the track is out of turn 15. So have a lap or two before he gets into traffic. That's quite handy, because that means he can just settle down. He had to overtake a couple of cars when he came out of the pits, but the first two laps, if you can concentrate on getting the feel of the car, well, that's a blessing, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. If you can just get a clear lap or two, it means you get your eye in, you understand where the balance of the car is, because by the second stint, depending on how your teammate's driven and how you have the car set, the rear tyres could start to be going off. So maybe some adjustments to the traction control system might be made. Maybe dial up the ABS, depending on how the feeling is on the brake pedal. You know, you've got that couple of laps just to find your way and then really settle into a rhythm. And, you know, he's got a lovely lead of 16 seconds, so he's not under any pressure to, you know, produce any crazy fast laps. He just needs to be consistent.
Be quite interesting to work out how it's suddenly gone from 8.5 seconds before the pit stops to almost double. Certainly Paolo Bilieri would have lost 3 seconds in the pits because he's driving solo. in the number 32 entry from Motorsport Racing. But since then, we'll have a see what their natural pace is once they're fully up and running at race pace again. Now, I mean, Massimo Cilia, the second he left the pits, he was on race pace, but you have to see the first flying lap rather than the out lap to really gauge his full pace. But Paolo Biglieri, well, actually, he's pretty much lapping within a second or so what he was doing before he came in for his one pit stop. But car 61 sitting comfortably for the Oregon team at the front of the pack. What's going to change behind? Well, I'll tell you what's changed behind is not the surname of the driver in third place, but the generation and the first name, because Donovan's got out, leading Lamborghini Cup class. Now it's Luciano. Luciano is older and not as fast, but he's got to hang on there. He's got the 4 and a bit second advantage. In fact, here comes down the straight in our image, car number 8, white with the blue and black stripes, and being hunted down because car number 130 tucked in behind Anton Como, driving this race solo, so he had the benefit of doing the first half of the race. And Dean Noyles, likewise, in the black and yellow car, number 170, he also is a solo driver. So as Luciano Privitelli tries to just get up to speed, get the feel of the car, having taken over from son Donovan, I'm afraid he's probably going to lose his position within the next lap, because those two cars, number 170 and 130, are after him, hot on his heels. Another car just up ahead. That's car number 286. That was Umar Abdullah's car that's sort of been in the wars. I think it had a spin, it had a puncture, and maybe didn't have a spin, but certainly had a puncture, which put it way back. And I think the Indonesian driver is about to be monstered on the run up to turn 4. Well, the person who said thank you the most was the driver. There were 4 cars in a row. The one that went into turn 3 fourth has come out in the lead of that pack. Dean Noyles kept it tight, whilst Anton Como, in his attempt to get past Luciano Privitelli and around the tail of Umar Abdullah, ended up both running very wide out of turn 3. And the yellow and black car, number 170, third place. Well, I'll have a little go at that. So through he went up to turn 8, and as predicted, Luciano Privitelli lost another position. Antoine Como's going through. Next car in the picture, not too far behind, is European Lamborghini Cup champion Karim Oj. I beg your pardon, there's another one in front of that. That's, Gabriel Holguin from the North American series. So right now, Luciano Privitelli has just got to keep his focus.
Yeah, there's only one AM car between him and his next competitor, but haven't quite seen the pace. That I believe there's a couple of seconds a lap between them, so the likelihood is he's going to get past, but what he needs to maximise is not losing time when being passed. You know, if he can let the AM cars go, make it as difficult as possible for you know, his actual direct competitors in LB Cup, that's all he can do, and just try and, you know, find his rhythm and, you know, do the maximum. You know, that is the tough thing, that you put a lot of pressure on these gentlemen drivers to perform, but you've got to remember they're here for fun, it's their hobby, and, you know, you can only expect so much.
No, exactly so. And as we get in many races, a couple of cars have just been pinged because their pit stop was a second short. Car number 90, that's Holger Harmsen, and car 186, Jonathan Hirschberg. So their pit stops were under investigation for being under the limited time for both of them. With being solo, it was 108 seconds, but unfortunately they did 107. And so they've picked up a penalty accordingly.
The other issue you have here with Misano, because the exit of the pit lane is so long, the chances are the teams are going to release their drivers a little bit under the pit time and say, look, we're going to release you a couple of seconds early, because that may allow them to jump the people they're racing, but then it's up to the driver to trim that time back. And again, potentially with the AM drivers, you're asking a lot of them you know, to play this tactic, and they might just misjudge that.
Yeah, no, I think they most certainly would. It's a really hard one to do. Now, Luciano Privitelli has just lost one position. And the car behind number 8 looks very similar, because it's number 7, which is also from Viorba course. Now, what's the car? Well, a certain hip and shoulder, as my old colleague John Watson used to say, side by side. And the car going through was 146, and that's Gabriel Holguin, driver from Colombia. Now, there we are, formation driving from the Viorba course crew, and at the moment it's still Luciano Privitelli, but the European Lamborghini Cup champion is right behind. That's Karim Oj. He goes one way, goes the other, and he'd be up the inside line when he gets to turn 1. And Luciano well, a gentleman then, in fact, almost slightly compromised himself. He was trying to stay as far left as he could to let the move happen, and then slightly caught himself out when he wanted to start turning in, but picks it up all over again.
Yeah, generally not going to put up too much of a fight against your teammate. Both being in Lamborghini Cup, they're probably quite good friends, you know, a bit of socialising. The last thing you want to do is have a crash with a teammate and a friend.
Yeah, it can lead to that sort of rather awkward atmosphere, I feel. Right, the crew's looking on. What's the gap between first and second? Well, it's 12.4. And actually,
it's coming down.
Massimo Ciglia's pace in the race lead is not as good as Paolo Biglieri. Last time around, the difference between them was the best part of 2 seconds. And that's why we saw the margin had gone out to 16 seconds. I reckon it should have been about 12 or 13. Couldn't work out where the extra time has come from. But Paolo Biglieri, maybe because he also did the first part of the race, is very comfortable with the car in these conditions, and he is starting to hunt him down. But his enemy isn't just the rivals on the track or his tyres, it's the fact the clock continues to count down. 50-minute race, 39 minutes have gone, so do the maths, 11 minutes remaining.
Yeah, even at 2 seconds a lap, well, in that last lap it's actually more like 3, but 2 to 3 seconds a lap, he might just get on the back of him towards the, for the last lap of the race. But even so, Massimo Ciglia can probably defend for a lap or so, even at that sort of pace.
You'd think so, and at that point it's also possibly a question about will there be other cars around them at the time. Right, talking about the Lamborghini Cup, it was led for the first part of the race by Donovan Privitelli. His father Luciano took over, but he has now dropped to second in class. Just a short while ago we saw his own teammate from Villorba course, which is Karim Oj. Oj's up into 6th place, Privitelli is back down to 8th, but he's got quite a tidy margin. You don't want cars in the pits at this point because the pit window has closed, but unfortunately, oh wait, 165, this is the car that had retired. Remember, it came in, stuck in 3rd gear, was sent back out again, came in again, retired, and now it looks like it's going to be unretired. At this point, of course, it's all just about getting the feel of the car ready for tomorrow, second race of 2 in the World Finals. Oh dear, someone's had a bit of a moment of spectacle. Car number 77, that's from BDR Grupo Promise, Alfredo Hernandez Ortega. I think he just spun on his own juices, perhaps. Right, here's the battle, though. Battle for 3rd place. Dean Noyles, car number 170. Remember, he gained 4 positions in 1 corner. And the driver who had been in front of him is now behind him. That's car 130, fellow Canadian, Antoine Como, and just getting news that he's unretired. That's car 165, Ray Shahi. But yeah, the best battle on the race at the moment is this battle over 3rd place. And the driver's standings, if you just want to understand what they are, it goes 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, down to 10th place. And these points to be put in the bank today and added to tomorrow. We combine the 2 races for both the Lamborghini Cup and AM runners, and then later this afternoon we got the Pro and the Pro-Am groups, and then they do it all over again tomorrow, and then we will know who will be the World Finals champions in each of the 4 categories. Pro, Pro-Am, oh dear, Hernandez Ortega having another moment and providing another moment for a car, one of the DL Racing cars coming through. I don't know if he's, to have 2 spins in fairly short order, does that mean something's leaking on his tyres, perhaps?
It could be, but it could also be, again, he's had a moment, he's had a spin, he's a bit flustered. Mentally, he's not quite regathered his thoughts, and then he's made another mistake. But it could also be an issue, something leaking from the car. Without getting a closer look, it's hard to tell. Yeah,
always hard to tell. Well, the comparison over the last 3 laps, quite extraordinary, this chase. 1.9 seconds gained by Biglieri, 3.1 the next lap, and 1.5 the next lap, and another spinner. Again, down at turn 13, BC Racing, car number 251. That makes it Brian Huang has gone around. Now, that's precisely the spot we saw Hernandez Ortega go around. So maybe there is a little bit something on the track down there, because they're far enough into their stint, far enough into the race to get the feel of the car, the circuit. Now, driving through gravel, not always easy, but I'd say that Brian Huang did a decent job there. Didn't apply too much right foot, because that tends to bog the car down. What he must do now, to be polite, stay on the left-hand side of the circuit, let the gravel fall out, not on the racing line. You're nobody's friend if you decide, I'm going straight back on the racing line, because you can spread gravel for hundreds of meters after that.
Yeah, and even after getting back going and driving the rest of the race, the mechanics will still have to have the floor off the car tonight and get the hoover involved and lots of sweeping, because gravel, if you go in the gravel with one of these cars with all the intricate bits of design for the aerodynamics, it gets everywhere.
Yeah. Sounds lousy as well as they're rattling around the circuit. Now, suddenly the pace has picked up for our race leader, Massimo Cilia. Maybe he thought he was so far clear, he just backed off. Maybe he was just being cautious in traffic. But instead of being caught, the gap went down to 8.1 seconds. Last time round, he was actually 4/10, third of a second, 4/10 of a second, third of a second faster than the chasing Paolo Bilieri. But equally, in turn, maybe Paolo caught traffic. And don't forget, maybe there is also something down in terms of liquid around turns 12 and 13, causing 2 cars to spin. Right, car 146, that was one running at the front end of the field. It's Gabriel Holgen. 5-second penalty for track limits. Excess, not just one, it'll be many. And that actually, he's got 2 cars right behind him, could lose him 2 places. Blink of an eye. In fact, right there, right now, he's losing one of those because car number 79, Surin Mazur, is right alongside. Tucked in behind them, we've got Karim OJ, and not too far behind him would be Donovan, Luciano Privitelli. Now, this is the point on the circuit, Greg, it's a little bit slippery. Let's have a look. That's where 2 cars went off between turns 12 and 13. Then hard on the brakes into turn 14. Have to keep looking not just at the screen of moving pictures, but one of our results screens giving us constant warning of people receiving track limit identification, and a final warning has just been given to the brightest, well, the car that cannot hide, the bright orange car of Super Chaiwira Borwanpong. He's on his final warning, car number 271. Now, the battle between 170 and 130 is suddenly compromised, and 170 Dean Noyles, the car with the yellow flashes on its flank, well, I thought it has, I think, just lost position to 130 with Antoine Como coming through, caught up behind Alfredo Hernandez Ortega, but Dean Noyles at 170 guessed right, and a very, very tight exit there from Antoine Como, seeing if he can get around Hernandez Ortega. It'd be quite nice if he let them through, because he's not in their race, but he is in their way at the moment.
Went a little bit wide there, so I think he's had a compromised exit, so yeah, maybe he'll get out of the way now.
Yeah, he's a lap down, and now he does, but in fact he was terribly fair. He compromised the pair of them, so it sort of balanced out. But as we saw in one of the races yesterday, the traffic can giveth and it can taketh away. But certainly yesterday one of the drivers had every cause for complaint, because he guessed and got entirely boxed, and the car that had been hunting him down for a very long time went past the win. In fact, that was when we were working towards the end of the European Series race. Sorry, the Asian Series race, wasn't it? Yeah.
So this is the battle for the last place on the podium in AM. So certainly all to play for.
Yeah, it really is. And just to point out, well, let's have a look. This is what I had. The gold car is a lap down. That's Alfredo Hernandez Ortega. At this stage, it forced Dean Noyles very, very wide. He would eventually come back to the track. That was out of turn 3 up to turn 4. That was the point at which Antoine Como, the white and red car, thought he might get through, but Noyles kept his foot down and just kept on coming, got back onto the track. But the next few corners, it was really, really tight. And for the driver, once you've gone wide off the edge of the circuit, suddenly there's a lot less grip, isn't there? You're going over the painted areas. Down to turn 8 we go. Still this battle is raging on, but they've dropped Hernandez Ortega, and they've got, well, 3 and a bit more minutes. And oh dear, is that number
146?
146. He's been in the battles, and that's Gabriel Holgen. And either he's hit something or someone has hit him.
Pretty hard, because that looks like rear suspension damage.
Okay, we'll look out for that. So he'd been running quite a decent race there, started by Sebastian Carat. So I think they'd already picked up a penalty of some sort, but they were still going well in terms of track position. This battle for third place is still super, super tight, and don't know if that's someone limping home or someone just being very, very kind indeed, keeping out of their way. No, I think with the Lightfoot Motorsport car, looks as though actually it might be the Zyril O car, maybe.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
205, the Fortis Racing car, limping into the pits there by looks of things. So disappointment for the Malaysians. Right, just while we look at this battle, suddenly it's swinging again. Much quicker lap from Paolo Bilieri, so it's down to 6 seconds, but it's only this lap, I would suggest, and the next one so he's not surely going to be able to catch up. But their lap pace has been yo-yoing up and down. And I think Bilieri's has been, well, consistently faster, but he had one lap where he was actually slower than the race leader by some margin. Oh, thank you. Just confirmation there. It is the 205 for Fortis Racing car that came into the pit lane. We saw it limping rather slowly. So remaining under 2 minutes to go. And really the big question is who is going to finish third. It's the yellow and black car. Another car moving
Puncture.
Right across their nose. But for now, Dean Noyles hangs on to third place. Fellow Canadian Antoine Como all over his tail. They're way off the tail of the car in second place. The Hunter, which is Paolo Bilieri, they're 16 seconds away from him. And he, in turn, is 6 seconds away from race leader Massimo Ciglia. Just remember, this is the first part of a 2-race combination. We'll tot up the scores after race 2. But if you win this one, you put 15 points in your bank. Second place, 12. And these two cars are fighting over 10 points. And Super Trofeo One Pong has had another little spin, or a little spin, down at turn 14. He's quite keen to get going. Flames licking out of the back of his flame-coloured car. He's waiting for the signal from the marshals, I'd suggest, for a clear bit of track to put his car back onto the track. Lamborghini Cup class as we get onto the final lap. Here is the final lap with a 4.2 second margin down to turn 8. There are only 16 turns in the lap. 186 running its own course, but that's had its own problems. But these are where some of the problems come. And
tagged him as he turned in.
Just a tricky little corner. Car's really unbalanced, but no problems for Massimo Ciglia. So his teammate Peter Perolini will be watching on as the Oregon team looks though it's heading towards victory. Paolo Bilieri only now coming to the background of the shot, so he's lost a little bit. Oh no, sorry, it's the second of the Oregon team car. So I was going to say the gap had grown enormously. That's what we need to focus on, not the sister car, which is about to be lapped. Well, it won't, but it's running just ahead of it on the track. So Massimo Ciglia, Peter Perolini look as though they've got this one in the bag. There was a time when they were 16 seconds clear. They're 4.2 seconds clear going on to the final lap. But it does look as though they've done their sums right. It'll be interesting to find out later what was going on for Massimo Ciglia. Was he just absolutely pacing? It was very generous lead to take. There's the checkered flag. That's part 1 of the World Finals, so the AM and Lamborghini Cup class cars. Paolo Bilieri comes through second on the track. In the end, 4.5 seconds in arrears. Then there's a big gap, but is it going to be Dean Noyles, car 170? Yes, it will be. Not Antoine Como, because actually almost the biggest gap they've had between them for half a dozen laps. And of the two Canadians, it's Noyles that's first, it's Como that's second. The Oregon team, it's always a strange thing when it's a 2-part race. You can be happy, but the real happiness comes tomorrow when you've clinched it or otherwise.
Yeah, certainly celebrate, you know, a victory, a podium, a good result, but you've got to keep a lid on it, you know, because it's all to play for tomorrow, and these guys are going to potentially have the Tribadini car back into, maybe not fighting for the overall, but supposing there was a result where they got in between them and someone they're competing against, that difference in points could be enough to lose them the overall, so you've got to really stay focused. Yeah, exactly. So Peter Perolini going over and say, yeah, thanks team, we've got this one, well done. Vamos, let's get it done. They've got to do it again tomorrow, and for a lot of these teams they've got to do it again later this afternoon, because they'll have cars in the Pro and Pro-Am battle. So they've got one eye on what's happening here. Now the flag has fallen. In the Lamborghini Cup class, having worked his way to the front, victory went in 5th place overall, which is impressive, to Karim Oj. Second in class, the Privitellios, Donovan, Luciano, son and father. And 3rd place in class, just waiting for him to come across the line, he has now, Holger Harmsen taking 3rd. And I'm also looking to see any late time penalties. Super Chai Wiraborn Pong just picked up a 5-second penalty, as did Alfredo Hernandez Ortega. But of the front runners, they kept it pretty clean, I must say. Yeah, that was probably the least penalty for track limits abuse we've seen this weekend.
Yeah, and certainly yesterday, I just want to point out, even though it wasn't, track temperature stayed around 19 degrees. Yesterday it was sometimes hovering as low as 12 degrees, and it really was difficult. And I think the officials were quite good. They actually gave them a little bit of slack in the opening laps when quite clearly the drivers were trying to turn in and their cars just weren't wishing to play. But the first of the part 1s, if you will, of these two race finals for the AM and Lamborghini Cup runners is complete. A little bit of incident there. Some drivers ending up with a little bit of damage to their cars, but really nothing untoward. But for Cilia, who's brought it home, and Perolini, the job is done. That is part one. And yet tomorrow, I think at a similar time, maybe slightly earlier time, they've got to do it all over again. And there we go. It's all about being a partnership. And when all you can see of a driver is his eyes, possibly his nose, you can't gauge too much, but it looks sort of fairly happy eyes there.
Yeah, I'm sure they're pretty happy after wrapping up the European title yesterday to, you know, win the first part of the World Finals today. We can't really go much better up to this point.
No, absolutely so. And I'd say, if anything, that was a fairly cautious drive from Massimo Cilia. He didn't have to push because he had that big margin of... Remember, he came out, and when they settled down, he was 16 seconds clear. Yes, it came down to 4.5 seconds. I think in traffic, he was being particularly cautious. No bad thing, though. When you've got the luxury of a time buffer like that, don't blow it.
Certainly not. There's no rewards for, you know, having an incident with a back marker.
Exactly so. And for Viorba, of course, it's a good old race. You can see two of their cars there. They came first and second. That's Karim Oj ahead of the Privitelli's father and son combination in the Lamborghini Cup class. And just waiting for the GT3 Poland car. Well, I tell you what, let's go and hear some happy thoughts from Massimo and Peter with Dakota.
Congratulations, guys. Massive. They're not even looking at me. Hey, how about that? Peter, come over here. You're on telly. Congratulations. It's been a really, really good weekend so far for you. Now just tomorrow to close it off.
Yes. So the start was very good. I don't know what happened to Stefan. I'm sorry for him because I was expecting to fight a little bit more. Then I had the opportunity to have to create gap. So the car was mega and the pace was really, really good. So we created a good gap with our competitors. Then Max jumped in and he managed to bring the car home. So let's try to finish tomorrow the job because we started very, very good. And now we want to take all the cake.
Apparently, Stefan had a transmission issue. So that's what happened to him.
Okay.
But anyway, he made your life really easy, didn't he? Yes, he did.
Work Pietro did. I just managed the gap. Incredible gap that Pietro created. I struggle a bit with the lapped car because it's impossible to see the blue flag for some people, but in the end we managed and we won.
Let's see tomorrow.
Yeah, let's see tomorrow.
Thank you.
We've got to make it a little bit difficult for you. It can't just all be smooth sailing. Anyway,
No,
let's see
wait.
tomorrow.
First of all, don't come for interview during the race.
I didn't. Congratulations, guys.
Bye. Thanks.
There you go. And that's a very nice way of putting it. If you have a trouble with the back marker, they have a little bit of problem seeing the blue flags, but nicely done. But you could tell there was a bit of caution because the lap pace was going up and down by a second or so per lap. All along, he'd have been told, Paolo Bilieri is getting closer to you, but to start the final lap with a 4-second advantage, you need a disaster to blow it. So job really well done for Oregon team there. And you can tell, even there, Pietro Perolini saying, don't speak to us during the race. So it shows the tension is very, very high indeed. They've been on edge, but they have put the European title in their pocket already. If they can get the double, then I think they can let their hair down a little bit.
Certainly, after tomorrow, it's the end of the season, and then all the racing's done. There's nothing to jinx. Whereas at the moment, there's still that, they're on that knife edge. They want to finish the job tomorrow. They don't want any issues happening now.
What a battle! What a battle!
Well, God, look how much joy there is down. That's the Lamborghini Cup runners. I think that was Holger Harmsen. Here's Karim Oj, who really did well. Came up to 5th place. And I think Dakota's about to leap in. He's our Lamborghini Cup winner with Dakota.
I am going to leap in. Congratulations, Karim, after a domination series in the series in Europe and LB. You have striped gold here.
Yeah, it was difficult. It was going to be a difficult race with the dad and son in the car. I knew that Donovan was going to get out of it, so he's done a very good qualifying, but then it was just a matter of keeping eye and just not getting touched. Unfortunately, I got touched, but keeping out of trouble and just keeping the consistency, that was good.
I was going to say, this looks new.
Yeah, it is. It's a new aerodynamic concept that I'm trying out, actually, and it's actually making the car a little bit better.
Well, here you are in first place. Congratulations, Karim.
Thanks.
Best of luck for tomorrow.
There you go, a little bit of aerodynamic tweaking en route, but yeah, he kept it clean and his moves look really very tidy indeed. But Karim is completely on point with these cars, particularly in the Lamborghini Cup class. He went along, and his teammate didn't make it difficult. Luciano Privitelli could tell he was quicker and less space out on the track, and then you know, Karim did the rest. Interesting point about the sun. It is late autumn. At a certain point later in the race, later this afternoon, they could get an absolute faceful coming down the start-finish straight, which will certainly make life a little bit fun. But it was a nice, cleanish race, and let's see a look at the classification at the end of the race. 50 minutes of racing, and we know that Pietro Perellini and Massimo Cilia came out on top, 4.5 seconds, there's confirmation of that, ahead of another Italian driver, Paolo Biglieri. Then in the battle of the Canadians, Dean Noyles just came out ahead of Antoine Como, so he took the final place on the podium. Karim Mojay in 5th, top runner in the Lamborghini Cup class, 3 positions further back, the 2 Privitellios, they came home in 8th place. But between them, Serwin Mazur had a little bit of a problem, and Adrian Lewandowski. But up front, it was all about the Oregon team. They headed out in a field of 33 cars. A couple had to start from the pit exit, which hampered their chances. We had a few spins, a little bit of contact, but for the Oregon team, with the speed they had from Pietro Perellini, he kept it clean, gave a lead to teammate Max Cilia, and Max negotiated the traffic, as he said. He found his way through, didn't slip up, didn't blow the opportunity. And they've got 15 points in their pot, but they're going to need as many as they can get tomorrow to be sure, because unfortunately we lost Stefan Trebbiadini and his teammate Pier Giacomo Randazzo before the start, so the maximum they can score if they get on the track tomorrow and win is only 15. But I think you're going to need a tally. Probably a 1st and 3rd should be enough to put it in the bag, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Pietro and Massimo can go into tomorrow and drive defensively, focus on just finishing and getting the points, but sometimes that can be dangerous. So the best form of defence is attack, so go out there and chase another win.
Yeah, motor racing is not different from any other sport. It's about keeping that absolute focus.
Squadra statunitense, il team TR3 Racing, la vettura è la numero 170, il canadese Dean Noyles.
So Dean Noyles coming out, he really had a good fight in that race with his compatriot Antoine Como, and to get on the podium is fantastic in the World Finals, but to have to really dog it out and have a fight, a really clean fight, that was great to see. So he'll be pleased with that. Paolo Biglieri, well, bounces up as made of rubber he is, but he did it solo, as did Dean Noyles. But, you know, a few more incidents and he could have got on the tail of the race leader. But the Oregon team of Pietro Perellini and Massimo Cilia, well, a home win, always popular. Over Jerry Canavicio and the guys, the Oregon team, they will be super, super pleased. That's been a good meeting for them so far, but they've still got one more day of racing. Well, it's straight into the home national anthem, Leak Away. You can actually, even though he's the first driver in the car, you can still see the pressure is there on Pietro Perellini's shoulder. You can just see that big sort of, exhale. The pressure is there. He might be smiling, but he's wound up like a taut spring at the moment, so he's clearly got one job to do this weekend, and that's win the World Finals in the AM class. Paolo Biglieri could blame no one but himself for his second place, so he really drove very nicely indeed, Paolo.
È il momento di invitare un esponente dell'Oregon Racing Team sul gradino più alto del podio.
And it's great to hear the interaction of the fans as well, high on the grandstand and the pit building above, and it's certainly been packed with people so far this weekend, and they're really enjoying their action. For the Oregon team, they get a trophy as well as the winning team.
No. First of all, the pictures.
And it's great to see Dean Noyles is ready in 3rd place to let the bubbly fly, but no, we have to have the photo first, of course, to put in the album, and then he can let rip.
All right. All the pics, then stay there, look downstairs, please, showing up your trophies.
So this race, the AM Lamborghini Cup class cars, the top 3 positions, all AM cars, the top 4 positions, with Antoine Como just missing out on a podium. And then we're going to follow it up with the podium headed by the driver who finished 5th overall to win the Lamborghini Cup. But great joy, new race suit needed. Often happens. Paolo Biglieri getting really stuck in on the podium there. Always good to see the joy on the faces. After, you know, So many things can go wrong in motor racing. When they go right, you've got to celebrate those moments.
So easy to skip past the positives, and there's more downs and ups in motorsport.
Yeah, there really are. So, as I said, points to the top 10 finishing crews in each of the classes. So even with those Lamborghini Cup interlopers, we go down to 10th place in the AM class. But 15 points for the winning duo of Pietro Perellini and Massimo Cilia. 12 points for second for Paolo Bilieri, and 10 points for Dean Noyles to pop into the pot, with David Starb ending up 10th, getting the point for 10th position in class. He had a little problem early in the race. He could still come higher up the order tomorrow, he could be fairly sure of that. So waiting for the second of the two podium ceremonies, and this will be for the Lamborghini Cup runners. And waiting GT3 Poland, German racer for that, Holger Harmsen. He looked pretty happy when he got out of the car, and he's still full of it. There we are.
First step of the podium.
Seemed to be indicating he'd won the race, but I think he's come third. And that was third in 13th place overall, 8th overall, and second in the class will be Donovan Privitelli and his father Luciano, who brought it home at the end of the race for Villorba course. I think it's really special to see a sort of father-son, father-daughter combination. It means so much, and there aren't that many sports you can do it in.
No, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely fantastic. I was lucky enough to have my dad as my mechanic through my karting career, always my biggest supporter, but never got to actually race alongside him, which would have been amazing.
Yeah, wouldn't it just? But onto the top step, Karim Ojo, we heard his wise words when he was interviewed by Dakota, and he's on the top step, and you can see the camaraderie between them all. This is the Lamborghini Cup podium, day one. So for Villorba Corse, they will be getting a trophy as well as the winning team, and they entered the team the car that came first in class with Karim Ojo, and also the car that came second for the number 8 crew of Donovan and Luciano Privitelli. Trophies still being handed out, and I think the prize for the biggest smile all day does seem to belong to Luciano Privitelli, who's charming on the grid, and as he said, extra bit of pressure but extra bit of delight if you deliver on home ground, and you know, born not too far away. Very special indeed. And as they stand on the steps waiting for the official photos, the roar of yet more fantastic racing and high-performance engines going back out on the track. It's an absolutely packed agenda here to the Lamborghini World Finals, and Lamborghinis as far as the eye can see in every colour, stripe and degree of performance, but and all the Lamborghinisti here to appreciate it as well.
Yeah, the Essenza SCV12 heading out on track. That thing is an absolute monster. Those things, rather, there are several of them.
Yeah, they really are. So trophies aloft, photographs taken. They can spray if they feel like it, and it looks like the Privitellios certainly do. Holger Harmsen might have been making a bid for the exit, but there we go. And he's oh, there he made the first tumble of the day. So there's time for the podium to be mopped up, because we've got the Pro and the Pro-Am World Final Part 1 coming up. As Luciano Privitelli lets the bubbly fly, and that will be starting at 16:20 at 4:20 this afternoon. So time for some of the teams to just park their cars back, and for the others to get them ready for the second race. Right, Karim Ojo, top of the points. He gets a bonus point there as well for fastest lap. I forgot to mention that, and that puts him 3 points clear of the Privitellios. Maybe that extra point could be something that pivots it. Maybe Holger Harmsen will go better tomorrow, but they've done the important thing. They got the scores into their pockets, and that's what it's all about when it comes to any form of Super Trofeo racing, because you simply do not know what may happen in the second race. But nice clean race, but it really belonged to the Oregon team. And I tell you what, let's take a look back at the highlights of this race. 50 minutes of action for the AM and Lamborghini Cup runners. This is part 1. And let's take a look at the start, because it came with a surprise. Stefan Tribudini turned right before the start. It turns out it was a transmission problem. That meant pole position for Pietro Perolini was a gift. Suddenly in his hands. Nice and clean at the start, and he very quickly pulled clear. Donovan Privitelli briefly challenged for second place, but he couldn't get it on Paolo Villieri. Others running a little bit wide behind. There were little bits of contact. There's Holger Hansson being pushed sideways, yet he would come through. That was a rather rougher assault. Car number 286 being tipped into a spin. That was Umar Abdullah. No blame attached to him, but Rocky Bullock was in the wars and would pick up punishment for some of those moments. But all along, the battling was fierce. For Villorba, of course, they were fighting over honours in the Lamborghini Cup class. This is the moment that Karim Ojay went through to take the lead in class from Luciano Privitelli. And then there may have been something on the track. Quite a few cars rotating between turns 12 and 13. And then the best battle of the race was actually the third position. Car number 170, Dean Laws, and chasing him all the time. Car number 130, Antoine Como, had a bit of a trouble, the pair of them getting past Alfredo Hernandez Ortega, but when push came to shove and a bit more push, it was 170 that got through and took the final podium position. It was a great battle. They would have loved it all. And then late in the race, there were still moments. That's what happened. And we saw 146, John Hirschberg ending, Sebastian Carazza and Gabriel Holguin, their car being mauled. But Oregon team came through 4.5 seconds to the good. Massimo Cilia building on the work of Pietro Perolini, and the team loved it. There's Perolini, and his teammate brought it home with a smile on his face. Second place for Paolo Villieri. And quite some distance back, another dozen seconds or so, back to third place. And it was Dean Noyles took it. But there, part one, victory, 15 points in the bag for Pietro Perolini and Massimo Cilia, and they were absolutely delighted, both there and when they went up onto the podium to take the applause of the teams. Trophies are good, but they want the big one tomorrow. They want to add a great race to add to this one. And then on aggregate scores, if they come top, they'll be cheering even more when we get to race 2. So that is it for the broadcast for the AM and Lamborghini Cup race. We'll be back later this afternoon when the Pro and the Pro-Am field, 38 cars in all, come out to play. Goodbye.